Joining me now to discuss how the US is faring, Brendon O'Connor, Associate Professor, US Studies from the University of Sydney. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Well, I mean, to be honest, last week that was the thing, really. I was on the Richo show where we've just bedded down Greece, got through that one, and everyone's saying in the markets, hold on a minute, we've got this US debt ceiling. So you know what the American media is like. We're going to have a month to the August 2 deadline. Will the US default? This is a crisis. And President Obama warned at the weekend that the Republicans walking out is not good. He's got a scaremonger. Realistically, as an expert who watches from a distance, impassioned, how serious is this debt ceiling issue?
Well, Americans won't take a step back tomorrow. They'll celebrate with the usual fanfare. And the idea that they're like Greece tomorrow could be the furthest thing from most of their minds. I don't think they want to believe they're going to be anything but the top nation in the world. I mean,
even though they owe them the same amount per head as the Greeks.
Yeah, and I mean, even though you could say they've made many bad decisions, but they don't probably pay as teachers quite as much in the US as they have been in Greece. But this debt ceiling is a real problem because the United States debt is going to creep up. That's just a reality. It's just one of those things that will occur over time. So it's a mad debate in some ways because the debt ceiling has to go up. It's just a game of chicken that's going on with the Republicans saying we want to cut certain things like medical benefits, old age, maybe some old age pension benefits, Social Security as Americans call it, and Obama saying, well, we need to get more money, we need to earn more revenue, we need to maybe increase taxes, and that's two cars going full sort of tilt at the moment.
Which we'll get to in a minute, which is the way they always do it. Of course the Republicans will have to, but just getting to the point, yes, they have to lift the ceiling because it'll all come to a standstill. But the things about that are, I've been surprised at how many people, credible people, are talking about some defaults on the bonds, and let's not pretend they haven't let the government close down in the past. They have certainly waited a long time to blink sometimes at great cost till it really is right going over the cliff, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, park rangers were sent home in 1996. There was a minor government shutdown at that period. It's not a folding of government like it is in Australia. I mean, Americans can function in terms of their
there when they did send the public servants home on a Friday.
They don't pay them or tell them not to work, take their Blackberries off
I get an IOU. I've got an IOU on my tax check when they ran out of money at one point.
Yeah, so I mean, there's likely to be some of that at the margins, but the default or the sense of not raising the debt ceiling and then a sense of defaulting, that would send the whole world economy into a sort of tailspin. The United States would be seen as the cause, might cause another recession. That isn't going to occur, but there'll be forms of manipulation around this, and there could be a temporary raise. It's a question of how long the raise will be.
Well, that's it. It's whether the raise takes them to the November 2012 and the election, which brings me to the thing. It's so obvious that this is all part of the politics with the Republicans, who you could argue created the mess, left it to Obama, and are now not giving him any help in trying to solve it. I think anybody would basically know if you've got a lot of debt, you've got to get more income as well as cutting spending, but the Republicans won't let them cut. I noticed at the weekend, obviously, the Democrats are saying Republicans are playing politics here. They're almost blowing us up. It's the suicide bomber strategy so that they can blame Obama. I mean, I know it's cynical, but, it's not been unheard of in American politics, has it?
Well, that's how the Republicans bounced back in the last elections in 2010. They sat there, they did very little, they were very much obstructionist in the Congress, and they were able to say, look, Obama's done nothing on the economy, he hasn't made it better. Obama was running around trying to stimulate the economy, doing lots of things, some of them successful, some of them not. So the Republicans know that the kind of do-nothing strategy in some ways, or the obstructionist strategy, tends to make the president look bad, and it tends to be the president who gets the blame. However, they have a little more power now in the House of Representatives. They're the majority party, so they've got to take some responsibility. But both sides basically have their own statistics. Both sides have their own data which they can marshal. The Democrats will say, look, we just have to, taxation is at a historical low. Those who are the wealthiest in America, particularly the top 1%, are probably paying in historical terms less than ever. Where the Republicans will say, we've never have been spending so much comparative to GDP. We should be spending less. Obama's gone on a spending spree. So the rhetoric will just ramp up, and the information will ramp up on both sides.
And it just seems incredible that you don't raise taxes on billionaires when you're in this much crisis. But let's look at it generally. Let's take, for example, things that affect us. The decision to draw down in Afghanistan. I mean, a lot of political reasons for that, but also that, as they said, he just can't afford to keep doing it. This is a prime example of cutting spending, isn't it?
Well, it's costing them about $10 billion a month. So that, that's serious money. And the Americans will slowly draw down in the next sort of year and a half. Now, it'll probably only be costing them $9 billion a month in a year and a half. It's a very expensive adventure they're involved in there. A war that's not, very easy to win at all. So they'll, the defence is this kind of sacred cow which both sides of politics have tended to say, well, we don't want to cut the military because you're seen as being soft if you do that. Obama, I think, is more willing to cut the military. The Republicans have taken a generally hard line on that and said, well, cuts should come from the salaries of public servants or Medicare programs or Obamacare, as they'd call it. So they want to attack the social programs. Obama probably wants to find more revenue and more willing to cut some defence programs.
I was just trying to make Osmond about the fear in Australia when there's an election and uncertainty. It affects business and confidence of the people. Now, we know we've got the US campaigns are interminable. I mean, they've started well underway for November 2012. Is that going to make it harder to get the economy moving? Is there a bit of uncertainty, or given the very odd-looking Republican group at the moment, do you think Americans are used to this, that the election just goes on despite them? I mean, what's the mood on this election this time? There's a lot of money being spent on it already.
Obama's campaign spent about $1 billion last time round. You could say that stimulates some employment for punsters. And,
helps the television networks.
Yeah, advertising. I mean, sort of a huge entourage of people putting together speeches and the like. I don't think it's a major problem for their economy, and then their election cycle is unending. It's a kind of horse race season. I just read something about the 2016 campaign, who was the front runner for that.
Oh, well, of course, because Obama will be out there after two terms.
So this is great sort of fun for those who like gambling and those who sort of follow that nature of politics in that way. But I think the campaign will kind of go along in some ways, as politics as normal goes on. And I think the actual long American campaign is actually one of America's great strengths these days, because it makes us familiar with all of these people, and in some ways it makes us care about American problems far more than we might otherwise if these elections weren't going on.
Can I just say, from a journalist's point of view, we might have a lot more time to look at them, but in John Edwards' case it didn't prove any. You didn't actually get anywhere, did you?
Yeah,
even if they were around.
But we're not following Chinese politics in this way. I mean, China is obviously on the rise, but we're not fascinated by who are the emerging leaders in China. I mean, obviously it's not a very open process in China, but the sheer fact that we're fascinated by their process, that we know people like Mitt Romney or Tim Pawlenty, I think allows us to buy into their problems and to some degree care about their problems.
Okay, we've got 30 seconds left. I'm not going to say to you who's going to win, who's going to be the runner, but just looking this far out as a way to say, things aren't too bad in America. How do you think it's going to look? Obama could get in and everything will be happy again, or turmoil?
No, things are very difficult in America. I mean, the economy there is in a very difficult place. I mean, it looks like it's really stalling in lots of ways. So I think Obama is favourite to win the election next year. I mean, the Republicans look weak in comparison. There's no one, I think, who's outstanding. Romney's probably the strongest candidate. But it's, these are not glory days in the United States, even though it's the 4th of July.
Oh, see, no, I was going to say, but they're happy anyway, but thank you for that. I wish I had the Bruce Springsteen song. Let's hope next time we talk it looks a bit happier past August 2. I'm with you, they'll get through it. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Associate Professor, US Studies at the University of Sydney, Brendon O'Connor.